We have reached a tipping point, a moment in time where the tides are turning, an era of greater knowing, more conscious living, more connectedness. And it's no accident. If you found that you've woken up to something more, then you are part of the shift, part of the move towards the Divine Feminine, and you are not alone. As my guest today, Sonia Choquette, world-renowned spiritual teacher, best-selling author, and my personal mentor is here to attest. It is her life's mission to help you connect to your sixth sense, your intuition, and live a deeper, more meaningful, and spiritually guided life. And it is no coincidence that after over 40 years of intuitively guiding some of the most inspired leaders, authors, and individuals, her work is more relevant than ever. Now is the time to connect to what we have too long ignored, our inner compass, our intuition, and in doing so, bring about a more beautiful, connected, and compassionate world. And that's exactly what we're talking about today on Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, Sonia. Thank you so much and welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to be here, Courtney. We have a lot of exciting things to share and explore together. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I have loved, we've been working together now for over a year and a half going on more. Yes. And I think there's something that really stands out to me in our conversations, our weekly conversations over the last year and a half, is people are stepping into their intuition more. People are stepping into spirit more. As a whole, I feel like we are becoming more conscious. And as someone who's been in this industry and working with spirit and energy and intuition for as long as you have, I'm curious to get your take on, have a little bit of a conversation on why now? Like, what is it about now that the consciousness is being raised, that more people are interested in stepping into this?
Well, I think that the first obvious answer is we can't continue to do the same things that got us into the messes we are in. Globally, environmentally, socially, the ego alone that is run, the five senses run by the ego, makes it real easy to see the planet as something other than a living thing I need to take care of. It's just a thing I need to help myself to. The ego consciousness without the spirit looks at other people as things to manage, to attack, to destroy, instead of humans who have the same dignity, value, and sacredness as you feel you do in your own family. So there is a shift that has happened on this planet. The shift, in fact, has happened. And we're at the very beginning wave of that. And that shift is a collective awakening of the sixth sense, which has been dormant, but not devoid. It's been present, dormant, just kind of fluttering, but the culture has pushed it down. Survival is always the driver of evolution. And if our planet is going to survive, if our world and we as humans are going to survive, we have to add this element, because it's the absence of this element, of the intuitive insight in us, that has destroyed so much in us personally. It's the source of our depression. It's the source of our anger. It's the source of our isolation. It's destroyed our communities within, it's sort of the me and that's the other. So without the spirit, we've destroyed connection to ourselves, our community, our planet, and the world. So I think survival is a big instinct that has awakened the intuition. And I have used this word. It's called the zeitgeist. It's the spirit of the times. And what's interesting for me is that I've been teaching for 50 years. So I've observed myself going from, so it's almost like being way out in the jungle, way out in the field, shouting as the crazy person. All of a sudden, the whole world's been built up around me, and everybody wants to hear what I've been saying. I see this very radical change, and within the last 3 years, especially, that there's a quickening of this consciousness. So I also say it's sort of like, once upon a time, everyone collectively agreed the earth was flat. Then there were the first people saying, well, I don't know. I think there's something more out there, who were dismissed as the crazies. That would be me. That would be you. The intuitives before our time. And now, more and more people are saying we're not being dismissed. We're being asked, well, what else do you see? Because it's actually being verified. Science is verifying that we're intuitive. The quantum field is validated that we can connect on a non-local level. Investigation has shown our hearts and our guts are just as conscious as our brains. So anybody who doesn't believe in this anymore is very last century. You are a flatliner, very much so. You are not talking about current science or current consciousness.
But why do you think that is? Because I know as a mom, our kids come in and they're so instinctively intuitive. Like, what is it that pushed it down? Why did we disconnect, do you think?
Well, it was pushed down 2,000 years ago with patriarchy, with religious oppression, with Descartes and the French reason over spirit. It's been this rage of reason has become its own machine and its own entity of destruction because it pushed out the spirit. But that's over. We are returning to the divine feminine. We are returning to the heart-based consciousness. We are returning to a sense of connection, and that there's more to humans than just our logic brains and our physical matter. So we've reached the apex. It's like the pendulum is now swinging the other way. It hit this, and now we're not back here, but we're in the middle. It's coming back.
So, and I know, like, for me, it's if you listen to anyone who has, I don't want to say even us against them. We've talked a lot about that. We're all one whole. But when you do really look at people who have had great success in their life, and I'm just going to say names that are known because that's what we know about, versus there's probably so many other people that are unknown names because we just don't know who they are. But when you listen to what they say and where they get to where they get, or why they find the success, whether it's financial, emotional, career-wise, it's always rooted in listening to their intuition. They had an idea, an inkling, something whispering from
an energy. It's an awareness of energy that communicates that they listen to and validated. And the culture has been collectively unconscious, dismissing this left and right, although the pioneers that have moved our lives forward, Einstein, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, these people have changed our whole collective reality on the planet. One individual, Einstein theory of relativity, Apple phone, the Apple invention of the phone, which is, instant connection. Facebook, Instagram put us instantly in touch with anybody one-on-one, anywhere in the world. These visions were all intuitively inspired and not attacked. Now, Einstein said it.
Why is that?
Because Einstein basically said, our sacred gift is the human spirit, the rational mind is the faithful servant. He said this 100 years ago. Sadly, we've thrown away the gift, which is the spirit, and we have become enslaved to the servant, which is the intellect. And it's not just our intellect, we've been told what we're allowed to think. We've been taught what is allowed to be acceptable. We have been oppressed, controlled like sheep, like lamb chops, sheep to the slaughter. And the souls coming in aren't buying it. They're not buying it. The millennials were the first ones to start saying, push back, and then the Gen Zers started saying, I'm not into anything, which is a progress. But now the Gen Y, but the Gen Zs are, I don't believe that. I'm not even, whatever you say, I'm not cooperating. So the souls coming in, who will be those who change the culture, are the ones that aren't even going to be subjected to this old consciousness. Your generation and my generation is sort of like, hey, everybody, last call, get on board, the boat's leaving, we're going to a higher vibration, and if you don't, you self-select out. But you are going to be in the minority very fast. If you are shutting down, well, I think it's habit. The brain gets very habituated. Our brain is like a machine. And so we get into the habit. If I have a client, for example, who is incredibly intuitive. like truly remarkably psychic level, next level. And every time she gets an intuition, it's immediately followed by, but my mom said that was bad. I said, your mom is dead and buried. Your mom, and how smart was she? How did her life, because she goes, she had a terrible life. Then why? You're getting these nuggets of direct gold that would make your life brilliant. You keep going back to that. And I said, I really think that you're afraid to be responsible for your own genius. So much easier to say, well, my mom said, so I'll do what my mom said, because then I don't have to look in the mirror and say, I'm saying this and I'm going with this, which means I also take responsibility for this. Humans are slow.
But I think we're also conditioned to be like that.
That's
I think most
exactly
of us, at least in our generations, have been conditioned to your parents know all, your parents know best. And it is hard to
And I say it's time to push back and say, well, do they? Are their lives brilliant? Have they shown they know best? Our planet's in a terrible state. All these people we've been so conditioned, enslaved to, are they brilliant? Or is it time to challenge? Is it, there's time for evolution and then there's time for revolution. And I believe that to say at this point, well, I'm just going to do what I was taught is lazy. And I think it's not participating in the planet and what it needs and your role in it. And I think it's an excuse. I personally think the condition to say I was taught this, so therefore I will only do this is an excuse to be unconscious and irresponsible to your occupation on this planet and your own personal contribution to things getting better.
So how do we change the narrative as, someone like me who is a parent to young kids? How do we help raise these kids to follow in their, their spirit, to help nurture their intuition?
By example. Never mind teaching them anything. They were born perfectly hardwired to sixth sensory. They all works fine. Don't interfere. Don't shut them down. Don't challenge and dismiss what they know to be truth serum. If your kids come and say, my teacher gives me bad vibes, say, okay, then we need to get you a new teacher, instead of don't say that, the teacher's right. Empower your kids by example, by demonstrating your own intuition without the parentheses of this is weird. This is normal and this is healthy, even if it's not popular, is how I would suggest you go about it. You don't have to do anything for your kids except protect and honor who they are and recognize that who they are is extremely conscious, extremely honest, and don't train them to abandon themselves. Don't train them to become facsimiles of themselves and robots and to betray themselves. Just don't. You were, I was, we didn't, well, I wasn't so much, but most people were. And our world is really messed up because of it, because nobody is living an authentic, I don't want to say nobody, more and more people are living authentic lives, but it does mean you have to confront the oppressive forces that told you you weren't allowed to. So I'd say, I'm a fighting spirit. You can clearly see that. I am ready to take you down before I will abandon myself. And I think that is the nature that we have to cultivate now. It's like, I've said this to you personally, and I'll say it. The first commandment is not to have false gods. Parental or authority figure approval is a false god. You can have their support, you can have it as a preference, but if their approval comes at the cost of you betraying yourself, that's a false god and you are making a big mistake.
So how do you find, this is something I personally have struggled with. We've talked about it quite a bit. How do you tap into that courage?
You let the people who are asking you to betray yourself, then you can't do that, and you say it lovingly, I can't do that. I'm sorry it makes you uncomfortable. I'm not responsible for your emotions. I can only live my truth, and I love you, and if who I am makes you uncomfortable, then I guess we can't be around each other very much, but I'm not going to change and be fake to be in relationship with you because you're not in relationship with me. You're only in relationship with some controlled idea. So I can't do that, and I love you. Sorry. Would you ask your children? It's like, please come to dinner, but before you come to dinner, change. Do not show up as who you are. Show up as who I want you to be. Would you ever do that in a million years?
No, but like for me, I know I have been really consciously trying to allow them to do that. I find myself actually becoming more of a relaxed parent because I want them to learn from themselves. Maybe sometimes I need to set more boundaries and structure.
Well, apparently you use your common sense. You don't let a 2-year-old decide when they can cross the street, but you certainly let them know that you trust that eventually they won't be able to make that choice. Mm-hmm. You need to let you do yourself is you don't try to indoctrinate your children to anything. Mm-hmm. Because they are much too vibrationally aware of the truth. And if you're trying to tell them, do as I want you to do, even though I'm failing, that confuses them just as much. What you need to do is say, I'm learning to trust myself. We all need to trust ourselves, and we need to communicate so that we do trust ourselves. And so we're all together in this. I've raised my daughters that way. There are 2 grown women now who completely trust themselves. And that is all I've ever been. My assignment was to raise them to be and trust who they really are at the highest level of who they are. I wasn't permissive. I remember when my daughter was 15 and acting out and whatever, I said, I'm not going to be a gotcha parent. I am not going to do that. If you want to act out, you own that. You own that creepy behavior, and you tell me you're making those creepy choices, and you take responsibility for them. And I will not show up to help you. So she said, okay. I said, just don't lie to me. Just if you want to do all the creepy things you're doing, go right for it. Have that experience, but you can't be fake with me. And that ended it. We had no more problems. That was the end of it. We've had an authentic, sometimes she did things I thought were creepy. That doesn't mean she did what I wanted, but at least I knew that she was doing them, and she would self-correct sometimes in the middle of it. She'd say, I'm going to the party, or I'm going to go on this trip where really it's probably not safe for me, and return. So I think you can hold space to give yourself a minute to find your truth, to find your inner guidance. Give it a minute, because the habits die hard and it will rise. Don't expect it to be give it space. Allow it to come forward.
Well, what I'm really hearing is when you want to step into your intuition and you really want to live more of a guided, connected, authentic life, the first step is to really learn to trust yourself.
And really the thing, Courtney, is choose to. Choose to. Because my experience in teaching for 50 years is we know what the true self is saying. I don't think anybody's confused. We choose to either listen and deal with the disruption that it might cause, short term for the long term gain, or we choose to abandon ourselves. We choose it. So the more we make good choices, the more we will learn it pays off in good health, good relationships, flow, prosperity. We need to connect our choices with the result. And we, like you said, when you're ready to choose that, you will. I've never seen anybody forced into it. I've seen people go to their grave in denial of the truth, kicking and screaming all the way, because their consciousness doesn't want that. So what we need to do is live with the idea that I can't make anyone wide awake. I can't make anyone authentic, so I'm more comfortable. People are going to be who they are, and if some of them are going to be completely shut down, psychic bullies, call me names, and I'm just saying the things I've experienced. You know, be dismissed, told off. I can't be who I am. It makes my mom uncomfortable. It makes my dad uncomfortable. It makes my neighbor uncomfortable. It makes my husband uncomfortable. My in-laws uncomfortable. I made everybody uncomfortable. I did. But I lived with who I am happily, and new people came in who appreciated and let me be myself. And so, and I read this, I don't know who wrote this, I have to find out. Someone wrote, the moral thing, what is the moral thing to do is what you can live with. So I can live with those choices. And most of the people who didn't approve of me eventually had a reconsideration, and some didn't. But I wasn't looking or living for approval or permission. And that's freedom. I was willing to take all the responsibility for my choices, and that sometimes was hard. It's always, but it's always easier than not.
Well, taking responsibility and trust. But what you just touched on, approval. I read, actually I didn't read, I saw a post by Ed Milet the other day saying that that is actually the biggest problem or the biggest drug or addiction that we as a society all are struggling with today, is that approval, getting that like, getting those follows. I am completely guilty of that. You and I talk about it quite a bit.
It's a false god, because so you get the approval. When's enough enough? I have clients who are beyond famous, top of the game, couldn't get more famous, more money, more overt outside approval, success, that are still miserable. Beyond. And why? Because they abandoned themselves and they're living for this false god that says you're worthwhile, instead of living from inside saying, I love myself. I am a deep value and worth, and my job is to be myself in life, not to betray for the approval of others. So we all go through it, but eventually it's sort of like coming out of a long drunk state of mind. All of a sudden you realize, well, I got all this approval, so what? Or even better, I got all this disapproval, so what? That's even better.
Well, how do you tap in? Like, how do you find that approval within? How do you find that self-love? If you've someone, I'm 41 years old. I've gone this long, wanting that, craving that outward approval so much. I think, you tend to almost lose like what lights you up sometimes. You have to tap into that.
What you're saying now is not the self, the you I know. What I observe is that that's the tape recorder going on. But what I've observed is you are the person who said, this isn't the life I want. I'm going to trust my vibration. I'm going to trust my guidance. I'm going to move my family across the country. I'm going to move to a different location. We're going to start anew. I'm going to begin my own business. I'm going to start helping people live it authentically. And I'm willing to take all the guff I need, and from those decisions, green lights, green lights, green lights, in a market where no houses were even on the market, you got the ideal, most beautiful home. You sight unseen like a needle in a haystack. You and your husband have started new businesses. Your children are in a community where you really feel connected, where you felt zero connection. So let's just say, give yourself credit day by day, bit by bit, and let that be the voice you focus and listen to. Don't focus on the them voice of, I don't know what I'm doing, because it's not true. Focus on the voice that says, this is uncomfortable, but I am making the progress. I am making the choices. It is a process. It unfolds gradually, but I feel good. I feel real, authentic, empowered. I feel like I'm being honest with myself, and I can live in my own skin. And those voices of disapproval are there, and my voices of self-doubt are there, but they're not making my decisions. That's the key.
Those voices, though,
but they're not
voices
making
can be loud.
They're still not making your decisions. That's what we need to look at it. The voices that say you're a fool, you're a loser, you're this, you're that, that's the chorus of the world. You're just you're just telepathically channeling the blah blah of the world. What's making your decisions is what matters. And that's, and from what I observe in you, and what I try to teach people, is the voice of you that makes the decisions is the one that counts. And from what I can observe, you've made beautiful decisions.
Thank you. So, you know me, And you know, those voices, like I said, can be really loud though. So is there a point in this journey when you do really finally say enough is enough and you step into yourself? Do you find in your clients, because I think you've been very confident in being yourself for a very long time, that other voice kind of starts to drown out those loud other voices?
Well, not my clients, because I won't let it. And if you're my client, you don't want to let that happen. If you found your way to be my client, you had to work hard to be my client. I am going to stand there as the gatekeeper, and I'm going to challenge those voices again and again and again, because they're just shadows on the wall. They don't belong to really any source of power. They're just habits.
But do you find that they fade away eventually?
Eventually. I think that they fade away when you start focusing on the more important voices in your head that say, you've got this, and I love you, and we're doing it, and we're going to be fine, and we are fine, and I like who I am, and I know I'm scared, but it'll be okay anyway, and I'm asking the universe to partner me. When those are the voices that take your attention, those other voices stop instantly.
Well, I will say in my personal experience, I do find when I am highly invested in something that my inner voice is lighting up and getting excited about, those other voices do fade away.
That primary self voice that you're talking about, that inner true spirit of who you are, doesn't just talk, it puts you into action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that will always happen when you actually are willing. But here's the key. I'll say it again. There's only one thing that's keeping anybody from being an intuitive, sixth sensory person, because we are hardwired this way. You are choosing to be unconscious. You are choosing to be in the dark. You are choosing to live in a way that's controlled by the world and fear. You are choosing to be a victim. You are choosing to give your power away. These are strong words, but our planet is in peril. Anyone who's choosing that I need to say that you are not only affecting you, you are affecting everyone around you, and you either are part of the problem, which is this unconscious, narcissistic, self-indulgent, it's not my problem, you make me uncomfortable, or you're part of the solution, which is, hey, we need to create a better life for ourselves and our children, and we need to do it by the choices we're making today. So I think we're pretty much at that tipping point. I don't think anybody gets to be unconscious without a consequence.
So do you see more people really finally choosing to be more aware?
I think it's way over 50%. I think that's what a tipping point is 51%. I'm thinking we are well on our way to 60%. Anybody holding back is just stubborn, lazy, obnoxious, selfish, not curious, because the zeitgeist is creating this growth in everyone. I was looking at this book, I am going to read it. This woman, doctor, 70 years old, got divorced, doctor, devastated. This is my life. I've been married to this man since I was 20. How can I live on? That's the voice of the ego. Victim, shattered, you wronged me, I can't do it, this is awful, how could he? And she said one day she drove up to the stoplight and something in her just said, stop. She is 102. Going strong, and has had the best life since that divorce. And the day she said, I stopped ignoring my inner voice, and I started listening. She's 102. So you're never too late, anybody. Going strong as a doctor, still practicing.
Wow.
So it's a choice. And you are there's no time. You're no like, I'm too old to change. No way. Lazy. No way. Yeah.
Well, I've experienced that talking to other people in my life that, they feel, well, like, what's going to change, or I'm going to give it all away, or everything I've worked towards is going to just fall by the wayside. What's another 30 years with this person? I mean, that's 30 years
Yeah.
of just settling or just being okay.
I took 30 years into the wrong person. I got divorced after a marriage that really never felt great. I hung in there for reasons that I think, as I talk to my adult daughters, we all agree is probably a good idea, but not nice for any of us. We all learned what we needed to learn, but it was never felt like this is it. We all felt like, what the hell's wrong with this? We all did. But we chose to have those lessons. So if you're staying in something that you know is wrong, at least know and be curious and committed to, what's my lesson? What is the opportunity here? And get it. Get the opportunity. Don't just be a victim and say, well, I'm here, I can't do anything, I'm stuck, I'm a victim. I'm not saying people don't actually hurt you. So when I say I'm a victim, I'm not saying you can't be hurt. I'm saying you have a choice to do something different. So I need to clarify that. Being a victim, in my estimation, is when you say, I don't have a choice. I just have to sit in this crap, and I don't get a choice. My mom said this, or my dad needs that, or my church needs this, or my neighbors think that, or my husband this. And you just say, well, you made that choice to give that power away.
But there's a fine line, I feel, between making that choice and embarking on the lessons that we are brought here to do, what we have chosen to learn on the other side. Because we come in with a set of lessons, don't we, when we're born?
We come in with a set of intentions. We choose what we want to address and learn. And I think we're naive and entitled if we think our soul growth and our soul lessons should make life easy.
Right.
We are here. Human life is difficult. And then we die. So those are the facts. But the soul lives on, and life becomes an exciting, adventurous, gorgeous journey when you live from the spirit and you live full out, and you're not amputated by your fears and by your lack of curiosity. Soul growth is not easy. Not growing your soul is infinitely worse.
So that's what we're doing right now. This raising
whole planet is in summer school.
We're all taking our souls to the next level. We're all graduating. You and I've talked about this in our sessions before about, some people are on, you could call them kindergartners.
Yes.
Everyone has their own level of soul growth that they're on. But as a whole, we're all kind of raising to that next level, whatever your own personal level is.
I think so. We're here. We chose to be here at this time. Everyone that's on this planet right now can choose to grow or not. And if you don't, okay, that's your choice. Those are your consequences. And the consequences of not growing are anywhere from anger, depression, paranoia, isolation, stagnation, boredom, that's a huge one, drama. Growth is tough. It has its own level of challenges that I think are equally intense, but you're not depressed. You might be scared, but you're not depressed. You're not bored. You might be overwhelmed, but you're not bored. You are engaged. You're not, you're not stuck. Okay, you might be confused, but you're not stuck. You're moving forward. You're inching toward the things that your heart is calling you toward. So you are in a dynamic relationship with life that really promises satisfaction. And if your soul is not involved, you don't have that promise. You pretty much have the promise that it's not going to be satisfying. At best, you'll tolerate it.
Out of the things you were just saying, I feel like one of the biggest keys to know if you're not on the path of growth is boredom.
Yeah, to me, there's only one disease that's the worst, and that's boredom.
I mean, you can work on some of those other things. You can get help for anxiety and depression, and I know that's a medical condition, so I don't want to.
And I don't talk about biological depression, which I've had much of. I'm talking about a depression that comes from being completely uninterested in what you're doing. Because it's not
boredom.
Who you are, and there is no intrinsic value to you.
So if you're finding yourself bored, then you're in a state that maybe you need to start looking at, like what lights you up, what brings you joy, I would say.
I think that you need to be willing to be uncomfortable and to start investigating. I think that living an artificial life is the most uncomfortable, intolerable experience there is. So I guess we all have our subjective preferences, but to me,
right,
being fake and ignoring my inner self, I'd rather poke my eyes out. I
have a hard time.
I can't live with it.
I have a hard time. Small talk to me, just like, I know sometimes you need to just like be a little lighter and have the small talk, but I so much prefer a deep dive, like a really good, juicy conversation.
So I know that who I am holds a very high bar. But I think that if you're going to let your ego hold no bar at all, you're going to self-select out of any real meaningful life whatsoever. So I'd rather you find me annoying than live a boring, dull, meaningless life and just the best you could do is criticize me. I'm immune. I've been criticized so much, I don't care. But for you to only let the excitement of your life only be criticizing everyone else is a very sad existence. And that's where you end up.
Common.
That is where you end up if you don't follow and listen to your heart and say, maybe I could learn and do something different. Maybe I'm harsh. Maybe I'm judgmental. Maybe I'm just flat out controlling and afraid. And maybe I should try to get past that, or at least admit it. At least admit it, instead of imposing my obnoxious energy on top of everyone else. One of my favorite things that I'm observing now as a sign of the times, even 5 years ago and through my entire life, nobody ever talked about narcissism, which is the disease of our culture when the ego runs the culture, runs you. Now everybody's talking about it. So it does tell me that the collective is sick of it.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like from what we're talking about is we have been in a state of ego-driven existence, and now we're trying to get past that, narcissism being a huge aspect of it. And like everyone is talking about it.
Everyone is talking about it because it is the disease. The ego trying to be the boss is the disease. The spirit is the boss. The ego is the false self. When you say, I am only my ego, so my ego needs to oppress and push and kill everybody else's ego and make you all submit to me, it's the diseise.
So is that where the narcissism has come from?
That is what narcissism is. Narcissism is the ego trying to control everything.
So it's not like we're coming in born with this narcissistic personality. It's built. It's a reaction to a world where you are not encouraged to connect with your spirit. So how do you deal with narcissism? How do you deal with people in your life that might be narcissistic?
It's like Carl Jung said, when the diagnosis is correct, the healing begins. So first, diagnose any narcissism you have. Any narcissism in yourself. Start here. For every finger pointed, there's 4 pointing back. So start here. Where am I thinking that my ego knows it all? Where am I thinking I'm the judge of it all? Where am I get to say, everybody, you're all wrong and I'm right? That's narcissism. What you can't say is, everybody, I feel differently. This isn't for me. It's different than you're wrong and I'm right. This isn't for me. I feel like I have to do something different. No judgment on what you're doing. I just can't do that. That's how you begin to lift out of narcissism, where you are putting other people and saying, you don't do it my way, then you're all wrong. That's narcissism. That's withholding your heart. That's narcissism.
I will say,
go ahead.
That's wonderful if you're willing to accept that in yourself, but if you're not
going to change another art. Absolutely, you're not going to touch one bit another narcissist. Forget it. Don't try. Just live your own truth and be willing to ruffle the feathers of a narcissist who might not approve of you doing that.
So essentially, it's just stay in your own lane.
I always say, what I said to everyone, mind your own business, which is to live your own authentic life.
I mean, I literally, a couple episodes ago, I talked all about that, minding your business, and it never became more apparent to me than recently, to find yourself in scenarios where, you're not, people don't necessarily agree with what you're doing or saying.
You're a disruptor.
You're a disruptor.
And we need to disrupt the status quo. The status quo got us into trouble. So I had to repeat that. I had it on repeat in my head, like a tape recorder. Mind your business, mind your business, mind your business. It doesn't matter what people outside of me say, think, or do. It's about how I feel and what I'm doing. And have love and kindness in your heart. Don't betray yourself. Don't be malicious to others. Don't judge. Just don't betray yourself. Just don't betray yourself. I'm not saying this is easy. What I am saying and will say and stand by is it's easier than betraying yourself. Letting your ego run the show, living by fear, approval seeking, completely drugging yourself with alcohol or drugs or shopping or TV or whatever else, video games or whatever else, because you can't really live with yourself because you're in such an incongruent state. I'm saying I'd rather be a disruptor. If you are in a disruptor, that's part of your soul mission.
Well, I think that's where the disconnect is. I think some people will think when you are living an intuitive life or you're tapping into this intuition, everything is going to go easy. Everything is always going to be in flow. But that's not necessarily the case.
What's in flow is the energy in you. As you course correct, you're going to have to hit some roadblocks and find your way around them. But what's in flow is an internal congruency. And then the more you begin to follow that, it starts to lead you around the roadblocks. It starts to help you face your own shadows. It helps you face your own limitations and keep you growing. So it will bring you a lot more magic and miracles than your ego will ever bring you. But it will also challenge you to keep growing and keep evolving.
So how does the Divine Feminine fit in? Because
it's all Divine Feminine. The intuition is the voice of the Divine Feminine. It's not put on lipstick and wear Beyonce heels. The Divine Feminine is listen to your inner voice, the heart voice, the voice that loves you, loves the planet, loves life, loves the goodness of humanity, loves that you can trust yourself. That is the Divine Feminine in every human, male or female.
I mean, I feel like that's really been your focus lately.
That's been my focus my whole time. But I feel lately the world can hear this more directly. I've not deviated from my message, but I've changed my language because I'm talking to different people. Consciousness is changing.
So what can we expect from you with this new message coming up?
More of this feistiness, probably a lot more fun, more presence in the world, because I'm a very grounded and practical teacher who isn't giving you fantastic ideals without the foundation to live your truth in the world. Wonderful tools. I mean, every day on my reels, on my Instagram reels, everything on my YouTube, tools that are practical, real, reliable, that keep you faithful, keep your spirits up, keep affirming that who you are is wonderful and beautiful, and keep you trusting and valuing yourself. You're going to get more and more of that. You're going to hear more and more. All of that is accessible to anyone, anytime, no cost. I have 30 books. All those books, all those audios. I am and have flooded the planet with this message because it's so crucial for our future.
Do you think we get out of this?
I think we already made the decision. I feel like we've made the decision, and now we're in the process of bringing this shift of consciousness into the mainstream. So yes, I'm an optimist. We're all good.
Are you saying we're in the liminal space or luminal
We are
space?
definitely in that liminal space for sure, but we got one wing out of the cocoon. We got one wing out. We know where we're going on a soul level. I'm a believer in humanity. Even the most obnoxious people who resist and are, pontificating, power, control, blowing each other up, even those souls will eventually evolve.
It feels like there's a change.
There is a change.
It feels like a big shakeup coming somehow, some way.
It's come, and it's going to keep coming in waves. It's here. And these kind of conversations facilitate the message to others. We're safe. It's all good. Don't freak out. Be true to yourself and make decisions that really honor you.
Great. And are you doing any more new courses or talks coming up?
I just am in the middle of finishing up a mentoring with the missing piece. I will be releasing a book with Hay House called 21 Days to Jumpstart Your Intuition. That will come out sometime this year. So you can come to my website. Our YouTube channel is another good one. I'm teaching every day, new things every week, but I don't have any big things on the horizon. I have things all the time available. So at any level of curiosity, if you find me on Instagram, YouTube, or my website, you'll find something that I think will be just perfect for where you are right now.
There's so many different stages to this, I feel like. I mean,
I know a process.
With my experience, it's been years of snowballed effect to finally stepping into it.
And you know what? You're right on schedule. We all are. Anyone who wants to grow, pat yourself on the back. You're surrounded by love, light, in the universe, and you're doing it.
I love it. I love it. Well, Sonia, thank you so much. This was a little bit of a different conversation than we usually get to have. So
it's fun. I love it. And I'm so grateful that you've invited me and were so generous on your platform to allow me to share these very strong convictions and values that I have right now.
Well, you've been a big driving force in a lot of what I do, and I've learned so much from you, and I thank you so much.
My pleasure, Courtney. You're doing a beautiful service in the world, and it will continue to grow, and that is all any of us can do, is what we're called to do.
Thank you. Well, I will talk to you soon. And
all my love.
Thank you so much, Sonia, and thank you so much for listening to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers this week. You can find us at CourtneyMyers.com. That's where you'll get the Intentional Home and Living, all of our goodies, all of our courses, and how to work with me. And in addition, I will put all of the information of how to get in touch with Sonia Choquette in the show notes. I can't wait to talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.